to the Plan Podcast. Michigan's elite political podcast is about to begin, live from the birthplace of the Republican Party. Let's gather under the oaks like our forefathers did. Now more than ever, it's time to stick to the plan.
There it is, guys. Welcome to another episode of Stick to the Plan Podcast. I'm Kevin. As always, I'm here with Russ. How you doing, Russ?
Pretty good, Kevin. Mondays come around fast, but know what was different with this Monday?
We did Thursday.
We did do a special stream on Thursday for candidate for city council, Christy Davis.
Sure did.
But we've had this guest lined up for weeks.
I know this. Yeah, it's been a while. I had it on my calendar even.
I know it. You know, I usually line up guests on the Wednesday before the show, but we're here today with candidate for governor, Tom Leonard. How
Hey.
are you, Tom?
Doing well. Happy to be here. And the fact that it, took so long to line it up means we're working hard. So,
It is. I've noticed because I've tried to schedule you for other things, which I've been successful at doing so. That every time I do so, you're pretty booked up, which that's what you're supposed to be.
It is.
Running
But
for governor.
we made it to the Lincoln Day, and it was a great Lincoln Day you guys had a couple weeks ago.
Let me brag about our Lincoln Day
You
for a
can
minute.
brag about it. It was a great event.
So we don't do Lincoln Days annually. We're about a year and a half. It's a lot of work, usually for very little money. And we put this together. Normally in the fall, we do a Reagan Day. And Kevin's got me distracted, but he fixes it. We needed to raise some money. And so I went to Karen, our treasurer, who is, puts events together, her and a lot of other people. I have very little to do with it, Tom. I just show
You
up.
got a great team. That's all that
I
matters.
do. They rock. But the bragging part is we were pretty much sold out. The venue was beautiful. The food was pretty darn good because you've been to more Lincoln Day dinners than me. They tend to be all the same.
The food was great. I'll give
Food
it to
was
you.
good. And we made some money.
Awesome.
Some necessary money. And I always tell Kevin and I tell the viewers all the time, why does the Jackson GOP raise money?
To elect good Republicans.
To elect Republicans. Yes, it is. And that is the key. And so we're really pleased. We did really, really good. And we're just now rested up from it because I know your wife was a former county chair.
She was, yes.
And that is a lot of work.
It is. I was too in 2009 and
Oh.
10, but I always had a great Lincoln Day dinner chair.
Oh,
So I didn't have to worry about the Lincoln Day dinner, which was nice.
so I appointed, ours has been a moving target with our Lincoln Day dinner chairs over the years. We lost a great one. Stephen Reisner, you know him? He used to work for Wahlberg.
I do.
And
Steven's a good
Stephen
guy.
used to
He
put
is.
together great Lincoln Day dinners. And-
Jackson Lumen Christie now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they got a good pickup with him for sure.
He never expected that, but that's his dream job.
Yeah, good for him.
You could probably never hire a better person for that
sure.
job. So anyways, it's been a while. We did good. And I'm really proud of our team. And that's my bragging about our Lincoln Day
Well,
dinner. So
Again, job well done.
thank you very much. Tom, I've been paying attention to all candidates, Republican candidates for governor. I'm on Team Tom Leonard. So
And we appreciate you.
I pay close attention to things that you're out doing, and so far so good. I love every bit of it. There are 7 of you, and you guys are all at the same events, doing the same thing. Talking points are similar, but a little bit different depending on where you're at as a candidate. But you brought this,
I did.
the path forward.
I did. Where's the camera? Can it?
So
can it
we're
pick-
right
there you go,
here?
right there, and that is this is our positive vision that's focused on solving problems with real solutions. And I believe this is really what's separating us right now is, I believe in accountability. I believe in putting it forward. I believe in letting people know what you stand for. And that's what we did. We've got a comprehensive plan to turn our state around. It's right here in the path forward. And second edition. So we released the first one several weeks ago.
I was going to say, a second edition. So every candidate has something like this, although that's pretty darn good looking. Every candidate has something like this. But I think you're the only candidate that's come out with, this is the roadmap. This is the plan.
Absolutely.
That's the path forward.
The only one we've talked to. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I'm really excited about that. I do want to, you can explain yourself, of where you come from and your background. I know you served in the state legislature. You're also the House Speaker.
Yep.
During those years, I'd forgotten your accomplishments, but I've been brought up to speed a little bit. And, you were a heck of a House Speaker.
I had a great team around me. I enjoyed it. I mean, we got a lot accomplished. It was under Governor Snyder's last term.
Yeah.
And we got a lot done. And I think that's, one of the things that I really learned, having to navigate the legislative process, especially leading a chamber. At times it wasn't easy, but we got a lot done. I mean, we did teacher pension reform. Nobody ever thought we could do it. We eliminated driver responsibility fees.
I remember that.
And then we did some great things. I mean, listen, to this date, I'm still the only legislative leader that's passed constitutional carry through a chamber. Unfortunately, the Senate wouldn't take it up, but we passed it. We got FOIA reform and open records done for the legislature and the executive. We got that out of the chamber. So there was a lot of stuff that we were able to get done, and I want to make certain that we get them across the finish line when I'm the state's next governor.
I like that. There's a lot of reasons why I gravitated to you as my favorite candidate for governor. And I will say too, at some level, I like all the candidates, And
I do too. I consider them friends.
Yeah. They're actually all good people. And I think they mean well for the state. It's a matter of, I think a couple of them, you would think they know the legislative process, but I sometimes wonder that they don't. They say a lot of things that people want to hear, okay? And politicians do that. But I'll think, well, that's nice you want to do that, but are you familiar with the legislative process, candidate, to accomplish that? And you have a reality and a grasp on how to do that. That's what I like a lot about it.
And that's what our plan is about, and going back to these other candidates. I mean, as you know, we just had our first debate in Sparta last week. And we stayed focused on the issues. And that's what we've done since the day that we announced. And the media, I walk off the stage and the media, they asked me, they said, listen, we noticed you were the one candidate that didn't criticize or go after the other candidates in the race. And they said, why didn't you? And I said, because the challenges and the problems that Michigan faces right now are much greater than any of us running for office. Yes. I mean, the fact that we're 49 out of 50 in unemployment, 49 out of 50 for population growth, 75% of our fourth graders can't read at a proficient level. I'm going to spend every waking minute that I can on this campaign, focus on solving problems. And that's what we're going to do over the next year.
I thank you for that. Like always, you've got a few candidates to where they just attack the other candidate. As a GOP chair, I've seen it a lot of times locally and on the statewide stage where primaries can tear us apart.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're not here to do that. None of us should be here to do that. The issues at hand. How are we going to fix Michigan? Michigan is in a bad spot. I'm almost 60. I've seen ups and downs, and this one's a down. Right now, we're in a down. The Whitmer administration, before Republicans took over the state house, man, the damage they did to this state. And it's going to take a lot of work.
It is.
From the governor, the next governor. Hopefully, we maintain the House, gain the Senate. Even if we have control of all three chambers, the work that it's going to have to be put into this, it's going to take a long time to untangle it, and it's going to take special people to do that.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. I mean, I've been very clear to the legislators that I've been talking to. I've said, listen, one of the big things that I want to do. I mean, the budget has grown. I believe it was $58.5 billion when I walked out as House Speaker in 2018. It's now $83 billion.
And,
I mean,
there should be an increase, but
it's-
not that much of it.
It's grown like crazy. And I've
Yeah.
said, if we really want to get to the fraud, waste, and abuse, let's go back to zero-based budgeting. What does that mean? That means when the governor proposes their budget, instead of starting from the prior year's budget, go in and zero it out and have the legislature force you, the governor, me, and my department heads to justify why every single line item needs to be put back in that budget. So I've been very clear to the legislature when I, propose my budget in early January of 2027, there's going to be a lot of work to do because we're going to zero it out. It's going to be a zeroed out budget. That's what's going to be proposed. And I'm going to ask them to hold me accountable and make me justify why every single line item needs to be put back in that budget. So there won't be a lot of golf for 6 months. There won't be a lot of time off. We're going to be there 9-10 hours a day, making certain that we're putting together the best budget that we can for our citizens.
The budget process is usually difficult anyhow, even the way it takes a lot of time, even the way they're doing it currently. All right. I almost wonder if zeroing it out and starting from scratch really it sounds like a lot of work, and it would be a lot of work, but it makes sense to me, and it might actually be easier. Let's start from the baseline and go up. The wife and I do that at home once a year.
Yeah, how much?
Although it usually gets screwed up about 3 months in, but you try.
Yeah, how much stuff from the previous year is no longer needed and no longer, used, or from years and years past?
Well, and you think about it, we all have, you often hear politicians say that we need to manage government like we do our daily lives and our daily household incomes. Okay. And how many subscriptions do you have, even small subscriptions, between you and your family? And they're going on the credit card every month. Some of them might only be $1. Some of them might only be $9. Okay. And you don't ask questions because it's just continued to recycle every month for
Streaming,
so long.
streaming TV.
You're not asking questions. Now, I bet if you zeroed out your entire budget and you started over, you would ask the simple question, do we really need this monthly subscription?
Right.
And that's exactly what state government has to do. We've got to zero it out. The legislature needs to sit there and have the governor and the department heads justify why every single line item needs to be put back in.
You would also need, in reality, a House Speaker that forces that on the House members on the Finance or Budget Committee. And same thing in the Senate, but the governor sets the tone, and before it hits your desk, that's what you would want to see.
Absolutely. And I have no reason to believe, I have not had a direct conversation with him about this, but I'd have no reason to believe that Speaker Hall would not buy in. Listen, he's outnumbered right now 2-1.
Right.
He's got his hands full. He can't focus on zero-based budgeting. He's playing defense all the time. Imagine if he had a governor willing to work with him to say, Mr. Speaker, let's make certain that we work together to find the fraud, waste,
in the
and
Senate.
abuse. Yeah, and there's no better way than for me to have you hold me and my department heads accountable.
I like that a lot. We can end the show right there.
Yeah,
Here you
Vote
go.
for Tom Leonard. We talked about it prior to the show. I say this on the show all the time. I don't prep very well. I hate prep. I'm a wing it guy. I always have. I don't know.
I don't like to either. I haven't prepped for today, so I think we're in a good.
I
we're in
don't
a
know
good
how.
spot, Russ.
I don't know how I've gotten where I've gotten today. Which who knows where that is, but I did. I read an awesome article from the Midwesterner that talked about you and your campaign just this morning. So anybody, find the Midwesterner and read that. It was a pretty good article. There's a lot of things that you can do to find out your campaign and who Tom Leonard is. It's not hard to do. Kevin, by the way, can put your guys' website up in the description.
Yep, TomFromMichigan.com. Right?
You've already
You
done
got
that.
FOR, not the number 4.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what you sent me. That's what I researched today.
So that's why he's the producer. But in that Midwesterner article, you talked about NDAs in that Michigan State Police. So do you want to talk about, I know what NDAs are.
Yeah.
You can explain that. And
Yeah. So you often hear, the question will come up when somebody's running for governor. What are you going to accomplish on day one? And often you'll hear these folks, and I don't think they're trying to be nefarious. I just don't think they're thinking when they start rattling off things that are going to take legislative approval. And the legislature doesn't take office until about a week after the governor is sworn in. So there's certain things, if they're going to require legislative approval, you're not going to get done on day one. Okay.
Good point.
So when people ask, what am I willing to do or what do I want to do on day one? I've been very clear. Number one, we will have a new state police colonel. The current colonel, the current colonel right now, 98.5% of the troopers out there that he is supposed to lead have lost confidence in him. They had a vote. When 98% of the people you're supposed to lead have lost confidence, it's time for you to go. We need new leadership in the state police. So I've assured my friends in law enforcement. I was a former prosecutor. Right. I have a huge heart for law enforcement. I've assured them help is on the way. We are going to get a new colonel. But number two, I can tell you, my administration, they will be told, anybody in my administration, there will no longer be NDAs. What's an NDA? It's a non-disclosure agreement. So what was happening over the past 7 or 8 years was you heard about all these big economic development projects that the government was trying to pay hundreds of millions of dollars to attract these businesses here. Well, when legislators would go into the room to learn about this, or the executive officials or department heads would go in, they would be forced to sign what they call a non-disclosure agreement that says, we're having this meeting, but you can't talk about it.
So you leave the room. You can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it. You can't talk to your constituents about it. You can't talk to other legislators
We're talking millions of dollars.
In some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. Now, thank God, Governor Snyder never put me in that position.
Yeah.
But I've been very clear. When I was speaker, if I'd have been called into a room and they said, hey, we want to talk to you about a project we want to try to attract here, you're going to have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer dollars. And we want you to sign an agreement that says that you can't tell anybody about it. You can't tell the taxpayers. You can't tell the people you represent. You can't tell your caucus. We just want you to get on board and support that. I would have said, go, you know where.
Right.
And that's just wrong. We should not be hiding these types of things from the taxpayers. So I've said on day one, we're going to make it clear, nobody in my administration, they will not be signing these economic development non-disclosure agreements. It's just simply not going to happen.
Prior to the article, I always thought of, and I guess I knew it was larger than that. I always thought of NDAs. So there's a separation agreement between, say, the head of the Michigan State Police, and they signed a sweetheart deal at the end to separate. I know NDAs existed in that, but it's much, much larger than that when you explain the way you just explained it here.
Yeah, these were, like I said, these were situations where they were asking legislators to support sending taxpayer dollars, tens, hundreds of millions of dollars of them, to select companies, but then saying, we don't want you to tell anybody you're going to.
Why do you think legislators would say, okay, that's good? You know,
I
so desperate for economic growth that they're willing to do that, you know?
I haven't had individual conversations. I mean, I know publicly there have been many that have said, listen, I just made a mistake. Mm-hmm. I walked in the room. I wasn't thinking. They wanted to talk to me about a project in my district. I signed this thing and I walked out, and until it became an issue, I didn't realize it was an issue.
Right.
And, you know, and listen, we all make mistakes, so I'm not going to hold that against them. We just have to make certain that it never happens again. Yes.
Do it better. Good explanation there. From day one of your campaign, and it wasn't a couple of weeks in, you stopped here in Jackson with some business leaders, and I was invited. Thankfully, thank you. And I'm not a business leader. I'm a podcaster. But anyways, mental health. A lot of Republican candidates, seems to me, whether it's candidate for governor or whatever it is, stay away from that mental health. And Kevin and I have had shows where we've talked about mental health issues. And I honestly think you addressed this at that meeting that we had here. So this has been from day one. You talked about mental health. I think a lot of Republicans stay away from it because a lot of money is put into mental health with very little results at the end. We're not seeing the results. We share this building that the studio is in. We share this with a lot of psychologists of certain degrees.
I noticed that.
And you get the impression, is it working? I think every family has this. Kevin and I have this problem in our family. Substance abuse. And a lot of times substance abuse starts with mental health problems. But we also know the stigma of admitting a person has a mental health issues, and mental health issues can be minor to major. You talk about a person can have a medical condition. I'm a type 2 diabetic. Okay, I admitted that, but people rarely say I'm having some mental health issues on a podcast.
And this stigma, it's a big deal. And this is, we talk about this in the path forward as well. But I have made this one of my top priorities, not just in this campaign, but it's been a priority for me for over 20 years. I had the opportunity to clerk for the probate judge in Genesee County. And she started the first mental health court in the state of Michigan. And Russ, I will tell you, I'll admit when I'm wrong. I was her biggest naysayer. I didn't think it could be successful. And every week she showed me, but most importantly, the people that were in her mental health court showed me what a success it could be when you get a support system in place and you get people back on their medications. They're much different people. So this was something that became near and dear to my heart when I started working for Judge Barkey. And then when I got to the legislature, I worked on mental health issues. And I've always made this a top issue for me and for the state. And we have to. I mean, people don't like to talk about it, but the bottom line is this. A quarter of our population right now suffers from some type of mental health issue.
Yeah.
Half of them are not getting treatment. Get this one. 10% of our high school students at some point in the last 2 years have tried committing suicide. We were in we were in Sanilac County a couple of weeks ago. And I was talking about this mental health issue. And this elderly lady, she stood up, she was crying, and she said, "Why are you talking about mental health?" And I said, "Because I always talk about mental health." And she said, "Well, you're not just talking about mental health because of what happened here this weekend." And I said, I don't know what happened. She said, "You don't know what happened." And I said, "No." Sadly, a small county, just over 30,000 residents in one weekend, 3 teenagers, 3 separate school districts, non-related, committed suicide over the weekend that I was there because they suffered with mental health issues. That is a crisis, and it's something we have to talk about and we have to address.
You take a small county that has had that happen. I think of Jackson County, which has a much larger population, and when that happens in one school district, it's a lot of resources and a lot of attention to help the students that are there, a friend or a school classmates taking their life. Could you imagine 3, even right here in Jackson County, Kevin?
That's crazy. I mean, and you're right. The aftermath, the mental illness help has to continue for the friends, the classmates, the teachers. Even, I mean, these are all people that are maybe not close with the person, but knew who they were, and they saw them every day.
Yeah.
Especially in a school that small.
That's a sad story. I'd read that. Maybe it was in the Midwesterner that you mentioned that, or maybe I watched one of your video clips or something.
Yeah. So this is something we're not going to let off. I had somebody and they reached out several weeks ago, and I think their heart was in the right place. I think they just don't understand folks on the ground, if you will. And they reached out and they said, "Hey, listen, Tom, if I have one advice for you, it's stop talking about mental health issues because nobody cares." And I said to this person, I said, "Listen, you are not in these rooms when I discuss this, and every head's going back and forth." Because again, if a quarter of our population suffers with some type of mental health issue, it impacts all of us either directly or indirectly. Absolutely. This is something we've got to focus on. And
that person telling you not to talk about it is part of the problem. Really. I mean, that's like you said, the stigma. People don't want to talk about mental illness and what they're going through. And it doesn't make it better.
Over the years, I've sought slight treatment, rough spots. It was many years ago. Kevin, I know you have.
Yeah, I'm still on medication for anxiety and depression issues.
Yeah. Thank you for that, and keep that message. I think that's a winning message that resonates to a lot of people. I can't imagine anybody out there wanting to ignore that.
Yeah. And but as you mentioned earlier, I mean, you said, type 2 diabetic, correct? Mm-hmm. you're diagnosed with diabetes, you're not ashamed. I mean, you go to
Somewhat.
your friends, you go to your family, but you go to your place of worship, but you say, pray for me. I need help.
Yeah.
But sadly, people that suffer through mental illness, they're scared. They don't know what to do. And we've got to break down that stigma.
Yeah.
Nobody should ever be afraid to get the help and the treatment that they need.
Yeah.
And we as a state should never sit back and wait for somebody to hurt themselves or hurt somebody else before we help them get the treatment that they need.
Let's see. I got some notes here. You have this great story. As when you were assistant state prosecutor, correct?
Yep.
I think that was
Flint. Yeah.
Okay. And somebody's asked you before, what's the best case that you've been part of to really put it to someone?
Yeah.
And you turn that around and you got a great story about that. And
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So, I was a prosecutor in Flint, and I tell folks it still to this day is the best job I've ever had. And I truly believe when I'm the state's next governor and you ask the question, what's the best job you ever had? I'm going to say when I was a prosecutor in Flint. But as you mentioned, people are, they want to know what's the toughest case you had? How long did the person go to prison for? And we had a lot of those.
Sure.
But the proudest one I ever had was this matter. I had this young man. I drew this case. I showed up to the hearing, and he had been charged with 3 counts of assault with intent to do great bodily harm, less than murder. And essentially what he had done, north end of Flint at a bus stop, he shot these 3 young men. And he was arrested. I show up to the hearing. He's been charged with these 3 10-year felonies, and his attorney grabs me and says, Tom, would you do me a favor, and would you go into the back of the holding cell and just spend some time with this young man? I didn't know why. And I thought it was going to be just a few short minutes. I was there for over an hour. And this young man, 17 years old, he'd been charged as an adult, orange jumpsuit, handcuffed. His legs were shackled to the ground. He's just bawling. And he said, sir, every word in that police report is 100% accurate. There's not a word I would change. He said, but what's not there is this. The day that I shot those men, I did it in self-defense. They attacked me. I thought they were going to kill me. And that's why I shot them. And it's 3 people's word on one. And I don't know what to do because my life's going to be ruined. I'm going to prison for the next 10 years. I'm going to be a convicted felon forever. And this kid, he had no hope. He had lost hope. And there was just something in my heart that day. And I'm certain we've all been there with somebody that needed it. I just believed him. Mm-hmm. We got the matter.
And that's hard for a prosecutor. You guys are usually in a mode.
But, but our job.
To even get to that room, Tom, for the defense attorney to come to you, a lot of times the prosecutor is like, I don't need to go talk to him. So something told you to go.
But our job is to seek, when you're a prosecutor, your job is to seek justice.
Sure.
And I went out and I told my officer in charge, and this was the time, Flint was laying off dozens and dozens of officers because of budget cuts. These poor guys and ladies, they were overworked. And I said to him, listen, I know you're going to be upset when I tell you to do this. I know you don't have time, but you've got to go back to that bus stop. And I need you to ask them if they had any video surveillance that day. He wasn't happy about it. About 4 hours later, he comes back to my office and he's holding up this DVD and he says, you're not going to believe it. This thing was within hours of resetting.
Oh,
he
wow.
pops it in the computer, and everything this young man said was 100% true. Within an hour, we had him out of jail. We had the other 3 arrested for falsifying a police report. And I tell that story in the campaign trail because of this. As I travel the state, I feel like there were a lot of people across the state that I talked to that are much like that young man was that day. They lost hope.
Yeah.
They're sending their kids to schools that they feel like they're not being educated. They've got property taxes that are rising every year.
I'm going to bring you over a little bit.
Sorry.
I just noticed.
No, you're okay.
Better view.
They've got property taxes that are rising every year, and seniors don't know if they're going to be able to stay in their ever homes.
It's just the microphone's in your face.
No,
there.
You're good.
There we go.
Seniors don't know if they're going to be able to stay in their forever homes. You've got young people who they don't know if they can get married and start a family because of the cost of living, the cost of property taxes, and the high mortgage rates right now. And frankly, they're not looking for somebody to show up to their doorstep and tell them how bad everybody else running is. They want somebody to sit down, listen to them, identify the problems, and immediately get out, go to work trying to resolve them with real solutions. And that's what we did that day, working together as a team. We solved that young man's problem.
Be interesting where that young man is today.
It would. People have asked me what his name, and I wish I had his name.
Yeah.
I wish I could track him down. It would be interesting to see where he's
Tom,
at.
I'm just going to throw a personal story. I was a corrections officer nearly 11 years, and I worked third shift for many, many years in a housing unit in Adrian. And we had porters, and porters are what? Sweep the floor and wax. They do the work. And they would feed you these porters, or you had a little say on who you'd hire. But there was a young man that for the 2 years I worked in that unit, was a porter. He did great work. His crime, I don't remember what it was minimal, wrapped up in the system, boom, put to prison. And we became, I don't want to say friends, but friendly. I knew him. I heard his background. And it's just funny. I moved on in my career or another thing. And I remember him paroling.
Okay.
And hey, it was great to see you. I'll catch up to you one day, whatever. And correction officers aren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But there was something between us. It was cool. I didn't keep track of him. And I often wonder where he's at today.
Yeah.
Because I really had an inside feeling that he turned it around. I hope.
And that's, and I hope that same thing with this young man. I hope he's out there somewhere just thriving.
Watching
today.
this podcast saying,
You got it.
guy.
Maybe he'll give me
I'm
a call.
voting for that guy. That's a great story. I'm glad that I remembered to ask you that. Kevin's Law that come up in the Midwesterners today, and of course that you brought up that when you were the House Speaker, correct?
So
And
it was actually
why I liked it because Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. So it was something I worked on my second term when I was pro tem.
I see.
So what Kevin's Law was, so it stems back to the early 2000s. And there was this young man, I believe he was a University of Michigan student. He was on his way home during the holidays and he pulled over at a rest area and his name was Kevin. That's where the Kevin's Law comes from.
Sure.
And he pulls over at a rest area and there was a paranoid schizophrenic that was there whose family had tried for days to get him help. And there was just no way of getting this individual help. Sadly, he went into this paranoid schizophrenic went into the bathroom that day and bludgeoned Kevin to death. And his parents worked to have Kevin's Law put in place. And basically what it was a framework, it was a law to allow family members to get their loved ones help when they didn't recognize the need for treatment.
I see.
And the best way I can describe the law, Russ, was when it was built, it was kind of like a really nice home that the legislature failed to put windows and doors and a roof on. So it was completely unworkable. So what happened was I was approached by some individuals saying, listen, this law is completely unworkable. All these people are falling through the cracks. Would you be willing to work on it? We did, and we put the nice windows. We put the doors on the home. So now people can petition the court to get their loved ones help when they don't recognize the need for treatment. So we brought updates to Kevin's Law.
By the way, today we're going to cut the show short. We usually go to 3:30. Tom and I and some other people are going to tour a preschool daycare that is in the building here where the studio is, and they have 3-year-olds reading.
And I'm looking forward to seeing that because that is fascinating.
And just to paint a quick picture here, the owner of the building is going to introduce himself to you.
Okay.
And he moved here from Canada, somehow made some money, and landed in Jackson. He was looking for a place to start a charter school.
Okay.
And was searching all over around the country and landed here in Jackson and looked at where this building is located and the neighborhood that it's downtown and the neighborhood and how he could serve them. There was already a daycare in the building.
Okay.
And when he bought the building, he bought the daycare also. So he knew he'd hit the ground running with the start of this charter school. His goal is to have a charter school, K through 12. And he already had a method. That's why he thought of this. You've said it. Education is important. That children need to be proficient in reading by third grade. No one can deny that at all. It sets the stage for mathematics and science and everything else. It's amazing to me how Michigan public schools have letting children fall through the cracks on that. And then you get this guy. I'm excited too. I haven't seen it either, Tom.
Okay.
He says, I've got a method. I got 3-year-olds reading. Are they super smart kids? Or, our treasurer, Karen Wooten, had a son that was reading at 3 years old. Mm-hmm. Well, he's a genius with a photographic memory. I mean, he goes, no, these are normal kids. So it's going to be exciting to see that. But let's talk about education, your plan for education, because that's really what's going to save Michigan in the long run.
So I believe 26 here in the state of Michigan could very well be the education election. I've mentioned right now, 75% of the fourth graders in this state cannot read at a proficient level. Now, you had talked about the first 3 years, a child learns to read, and then they read to learn.
That's right.
So if they can't read and they're passed along, you've essentially damned that kid for the next several years when they're in school. So I had a reporter ask me a couple of weeks ago, when you're the state's next governor, if you can only accomplish one thing, what would it be? And I'd never really thought about that question, but I didn't even hesitate. I said, third grade reading. That is our foundation. We have a crisis right now. And if a kid has to drop out of school because they can't read, as a former prosecutor, I know you've created a pipeline to a welfare check or a prison cell. Yeah. So what do we in the state, again, there are solutions right here in the path forward. What did I look at? Mississippi, and they call it the Mississippi Miracle.
It's a great example.
10 years ago, Mississippi was 49 out of 50.
Does that sound
in third
familiar?
grade reading scores. 49 out of 50. With the right reforms and the right leadership, they went from 49 out of 50 to top 10 in the country. And I like this example because Mississippi is a poorer state than Michigan, and they spend far less on education. Yeah. Which shows it's not just spending more money. You've got to have the right reforms in place. So what did they do? Number one, early assessments. So kindergarten, first, second, third grade, the children all have 3 assessments per year. They immediately identify which children are struggling. Number 2, they invested in high quality tutors to give those children targeted support. I mean, you take a first, second, third grade teacher. If they've got 30 kids in the classroom and they've got 12, 15 of them are struggling, they can't ensure that they're all reading. They need help.
Yeah.
So Mississippi invested in high quality tutors to make certain that targeted support was there. Number 3, they drew a line in the sand and they said, listen, if the child cannot read by the 3rd grade, we can't just pass them along to the 4th grade. We have to hold them back. But the last thing they did is they said, if we're going to do this, we have to empower parents in this process. We've got to make certain that they're part of this. We got to have better communication. We got to have resources available. And again, with the right reforms, Mississippi went from 49 out of 50 to top 10 in the entire country. We've got to focus on this 3rd grade reading crisis, but also flexibility with our merit curriculum and where we send a kid. I mean, we're in Jackson. When I was here several months ago, I visited a trade school, and they were telling me they've got, a lot of young adults who are able to come in. They go to this trade school, they become an apprentice, and I think it's for like less than $14,000. And some of them are coming out making $70,000, $80,000 a year. Yeah. If you've got a 17 or 18-year-old student that wants to be an apprentice, a plumber, a pipe fitter, an electrician, a mechanic, you name it, why do we force them into their senior year taking a bunch of classes they're not going to take if there's a trade school down the street and they can start getting certified immediately? These are the types of things that we need to start looking at.
Especially, I can only reference this because I live in a rural county for the most part. I live in a rural area of this county, and it's small rural schools. Most of the boys, going through them schools, many will have successful college education and be successful, but the majority of them are going to be putting on work boots and working for a living. And I think they're coming out of high school now without those tools in hand to do that, or a path how to do that. So yes, they're out there trying to work, they're laborers or something like that. And that's great. I get it. but a definite path of carpentry or whatever the careers. They were so short on skilled trades. Kevin went to school with a guy who is a master electrician now. And
probably one of the most successful out of my class, and we had some very intelligent, like talking like perfect scores on ACT kids. And
it pays better in podcasting.
See, he doesn't know what it pays. It doesn't.
But it is the number one issue facing our state in order for us to be successful. Not immediately. This isn't turning the ship around immediately. It's going to take a while, but if we could set the stage for future governors and legislators to continue that process. I always think back when I was in school in the 70s, I graduated in the 80s. A lot of kids about third grade got held back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I didn't get held back. I was dyslexic and didn't realize I was dyslexic until I was out of high school. I think I taught myself somehow to overcome that. I struggled in mathematics and things like that because I didn't read well. I didn't get held back, but I remember there was a time where there was always 2-3 kids in my small school that got held back because that's what they did. They weren't proficient to move on. Do schools not do that now?
So no, when I was in the legislature, I believe it was my second term, we passed third grade reading reform that would hold kids back that were not meeting certain benchmarks. And I will tell you, Russ, it should have gone further. Those requirements were like Swiss cheese. If a parent really wanted to get around it, or if a teacher wanted to get around it, they could. And yet that was repealed by the Democrats a couple of years ago here in Michigan. So
why would they do that? I have a hard time. I ask those questions. I'm not a Democrat. Everybody knows that. I'm like, why would they do that? Right.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of it had to do with the teachers unions.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
By holding kids back, you were holding teachers accountable. But again,
I don't remember us ever blaming the teachers back then. It was,
But again, going back to these teachers, again, I've been very clear. I mean, I want to be practical here. You can't just hold children back and not give the teachers the support that they need in the classroom. Yeah. You can't expect any teacher to ensure that a classroom full of 30, with 30 kids in it, that they are all going to be able to read at a proficient level. They need help. They need those high quality tutors there to provide that targeted support.
I think schools at that age, like Michigan Center where I live, I think they have classroom aides, but I don't know if they're qualified to be specific in certain elements. It's more like a parent that comes in that helps the teacher put their mittens on and things like that.
And they need to be qualified to teach the science of reading, i.e. phonics.
Yeah.
And that's
they don't even teach phonics anymore. No. I was amazed by that.
Don't you think we're going to learn today when we go downstairs today that they're probably phonics is included in this process?
I'm interested to see. I mean, every successful nonprofit that I've been to that has been successful in helping young kids read, this is the main thing they focus on, is the science of reading, i.e. the phonics. Yeah. So I would have to believe that's exactly.
I don't know either.
We'll see.
Yeah.
You don't apparently.
Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Like I said, we have a short show today. Something that is important to me and a lot of homeowners throughout Michigan, business owners and everything else, is property tax. Mm-hmm. I'm the type of guy, okay, there's a proposal out there now to eliminate all property tax across the board, and I'm not really in favor of it. I am in favor of the elimination of property tax. But I think first, we have to do what's been proven to work and eliminate income tax. Take Florida, for example, and comparing Michigan to Florida, they're a lot different. They can tap into revenue that we can't. Or in the winter, I was in Florida, and you leave Tampa Airport and you're on a toll road. Yeah. Okay. They have all year round tourism. Yeah. So it's a different, but they started with income tax, elimination of income tax, and many states do. And those are the states that are successful. And now they're talking about the elimination or the serious reform of property tax. And I know you have an opinion on this, and I agree. I'm going to bring up something that was on your website. I don't know if it's still there or not in the beginning of your campaign. I'm sure it's still there. I sit on a township board, And it's constant requests for millage requests.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of these are necessary requests.
Yep.
Public safety. I am a huge supporter of our public safety. I think we have a great public safety. And I watched our board cram that onto a May ballot. And of course it passed. But I remember me opposing it and voting no because of that, making me look like I don't support public safety, but I made it clear that isn't the case. And they said right in there, well, if it fails, we can come back in August because we have to have this pass.
Yep.
And so this is another one. It wouldn't be immediate, but in the long haul, if you put millage request, thank you, Tom.
It's there. So I just noticed I've been holding up the path
it's
forward.
Still there.
This was not our updated version. We actually updated the Path Forward second edition a couple weeks ago, but this has been there since day one. And let me read it to you, Russ.
I love it.
Require all local millages to appear on the ballots in November of an even numbered year when voter turnout is the highest.
And that would be midterm and presidential elections.
You've got it. So once every 2 years when everybody shows up.
So that
to
gives
vote.
them a bite at the apple once every 2 years.
Correct.
In my opinion. And then, like you said in that statement there, voter turnout.
Yep.
Voter turnout. If it passes, great. Even if you're opposed to it, but the voters showed up in larger numbers to express their opinion.
And we dealt with the same thing where I was from. We had some locals that wanted to build this brand new Taj Mahal of libraries. And I think it got shot down 3 or 4 times. And they just kept putting it on the ballot every 3 or 4 months. And finally they got it passed. And it was like, listen, the people that didn't want it to pass, they don't get a redo once you start building the library. So why is it you get to continue to put this on there? So I can't remember if it was with you or another friend. I tell people I learn something all the time when I'm out there listening. And this idea came up because I had thrown out the question, why don't we, what do we do about a redo for those that want it to fail? And he said, no, why don't we just do it once every 2 years? And even year, I said, there you go. That's when turnout's the highest.
I brought
That's
him
when
up,
we should pass
Randy Guppy, my friend. We've talked a lot about property tax and the burden and that it has on homeowners. And you talk about seniors and all that. And I would love to see that ultimate goal of I'd like to see immediate serious reform of property tax. But let's start with the elimination of income tax because it's proven that it works.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, and if we're going to get to the place where we can eliminate the income tax, start focusing on property taxes, Michigan has to be a growth state again. I mean, that's why Florida and Texas have been able to do this because they've got more taxpayers growing in. I've always been clear. If you want to have better tax policy, you've got to continue to grow the pie. You got to have more taxpayers. And Michigan is an aging state right now.
Yeah.
We have taxpayers moving out of the state and we have retirees staying here. And what does that mean? That means we're going to have less people paying into the pot. So we've got to become a growth state again. That's how we do it. 6 of the top 10 states, growth states in this country, either have a substantially lower or no income tax at all. We've got to do that. Ours calls for phasing that out. And Indiana, they are phasing their income tax out right now. They are already eating our lunch and stealing our
in
our
Ohio
young
and
kids.
Indiana are our biggest competitors.
And we cannot let them phase out the income tax.
Neighboring states.
We can't let them phase it out and us not do the same.
Kevin, you and I know, I always tell guests, always give us 45 minutes and it's always an hour and a half. We definitely could do this for an hour and a half.
Look, I'm having fun. Yeah.
There's always so much to talk about, but we do have to wrap it up today.
Real quick before we start wrapping it up, I just want to address the chat.
I encourage people to jump.
There's somebody in the chat. Stone Cold Sean is his name. He says, I wonder, and I'll put it up on the screen right in front of you too. I wonder what his opinion on temp agencies and their effect on entry-level workforce and the reciprocal effects on the Michigan economy it has.
Good question.
Yeah. And we were talking about, he'd also put something about the temp agency fixes that problem. I think that was when we were talking about the whole trades versus college debate as well. So, I mean, that one was something I have never even seen before, or never thought of before. So,
Yeah, I've got the big wrap my mind around that question going on there. Anything else sticking out there? I see a few of them.
No.
Did we have an active chat today?
We had a pretty active chat. Actually, one of the fans from my other shows, Third Rail Politics, he's from Florida, and he was just mentioned that about not having income tax.
Yeah.
And since he's in the chat, I want to go back to the Kevin law real quick, just because this is a big thing. How does that compare to was it the Baker Act in Florida, where it's very similar, where basically you can get somebody admitted for mental health issues. They don't have to go in and turn themselves in, because I was told that Michigan has nothing like that, where you basically have to self-admit. Even if somebody is having a mental health issue,
so a family member can't suggest, "Hey,"
that's what I was told. I think
there's a lot of hoops to jump through, but I think you can.
Yeah. So I don't know anything about the Baker Act in Florida. It's something that I would have to look up. But again, what Kevin's law did is, and it made certain that there was due process put in place. I mean, listen, there's not a situation where somebody could just go and lie to a probate judge and say, "I think that my husband or wife or whomever they're upset with is, having a mental health issue and I want them picked up." There's certainly there's some, again, they've got to be evaluated. There's certainly due process there. But what it does is, if somebody is at home and your child is there and they're suicidal and you don't know what to do because they don't understand their need for treatment, it allows that parent to petition the court to get them the help that they need.
Okay. And it looks like the Baker Act is very similar. I was just scrolling through it real quick.
I'm sure states just name them.
But it's also, the Baker Act also allows police officers to ask for emergency admission, which, I mean, that's a whole nother debate with, now a lot of departments in the state are bringing social workers with them.
Well, and I believe in Kevin's law, it would as well. I mean, let's play out the scenario. A Flint police officer is called to go downtown and arrest somebody who, is running around threatening to kill themselves, threatening to kill others, and they arrest them and they say, "My goodness, this person's having a mental breakdown. Jail is not the place for them. We've got to get them help."
Right.
Then they could petition the court to get that person.
The Baker law or the Baker Act looks similar. It says the guidelines are a previous diagnosed mental illness, risk or harm to themselves or others, inability to meet their basic needs, and no safer treatment options available. And I think that's the important thing.
That sounds very similar to Kevin's law, especially the not being able to understand the need for treatment and being a danger to themselves. Or others. Those are the two big ones.
Whole another can of worms that we won't have time for is then the treatment facilities for those referrals and the beds is another big problem. But
for sure.
Definitely need to get our arms around that. We do got to wrap it up.
Yeah,
Tom, it's been great to have you on.
Thank you, my friend. It was nice to be here. Thank you.
I'm glad you came here and did this. I know Kevin was excited about it.
Yeah, no, I was very excited.
We talked about it over the weekend, and we do have a tour to go see 3-year-olds read, and we're all excited about checking this out.
Let's do it.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, thank you, Tom. And you don't have anything else?
Under the Oak Speaker Series, November 13th. With a candidate for Attorney General, Doug Lloyd, and he will have a VIP reception like we did for Mike Rogers a few years ago. That'll be at 5, the VIP reception. And then at 6 o'clock is the regular Under the Oak Speaker Series with Doug Lloyd. That is the 13th. The graphics just got done yesterday, and it is on our link. JXNGOP.org. It'll be a good one. We're trying to bring all those candidates through here prior to convention. So
awesome.
Thanks for asking, Kevin.
Anything you have, Tom? I have your website in the description. I also put it in the chat a couple of times, but anything other than that?
No, other than just tomformichigan.com. They can go to it. Again, the path forward is right there. It's on the front of our website. I want them to check it out. Again, we're the one campaign that's released a platform, and I've been very clear to Republicans, and just some straight talk for any Republicans listening. Again, Democrats gave us a playbook last year for what happens when you wake up and you're void of a vision and your only focus is hatred of one person. You lose.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not going to be immune to that. We better wake up every single day with a positive vision focused on solving problems. I call it the Dan Campbell approach, coach of the Lions. If he turned the Lions around with that type of message, that type of program, we can do the same here in Michigan.
I
We're
agree.
going to get it done.
Thank you very much, Tom.
Yep, thank
Thank
you, Tom.
my friend.
It was
Appreciate
fun.
it.
Thank
Guys,
you, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Russ. And make sure, guys, you follow the channel if you're not already. Like this stream, and thanks to the chat for the questions and everything today. So until next time, we'll be back next Monday. Do we have anything lined up next
No,
Monday?
of course not.
No, why would we? All right, guys, everybody have a good one. We're out of here.
Thank you.
You've been listening to a Grandma's Boy Media Production. Welcome to the Stick to the Plan podcast. Michigan's elite political podcast is about to begin, live from the birthplace of the Republican Party.